Okay, the no volume problem should be fixed. Thank you for that comment, Soccer Papa. I would have just been talking like a fool. What about now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Apologies for that. Welcome everyone. I'm Dan Cohen. This is Uncaptured Media. It is Friday, about 1 p.m. Here in Washington D.C. And if you've never joined an Uncaptured Media stream, well, I'm trying to do these more often, be more consistent. So welcome, first of all. So please go ahead and like, retweet, repost, share, however you can to help spread this, because you're going to be seeing information and analysis in this stream that you're just simply not going to see anywhere else, period. So Uncaptured, the whole idea of Uncaptured is really about constant self-criticism, about refining our understanding, our analysis of what's happening around us in a scientific way. Because if we're not sticking to facts and striving to understand exactly what's going on, it's too easy to get caught up and become captured. So really, Uncaptured is about staying physically, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally free, uncaptured from the deluge of propaganda that the corporate media, the legacy media pumps out to keep us divided, to keep us in some artificial left right divide, when really it's up and down. And there are many more of us. So that's the idea of Uncaptured. So again, please subscribe, turn on notifications, share this around as widely as you can. And I try to interact with the chats as much as possible, and super chats are much appreciated, and I'll absolutely be sure to answer any questions or read out any comments. So again, thanks everyone for joining. Today we're going to be discussing current events in Haiti, which, as for myself, I believe is going through a revolutionary process. And Haiti, if we want to contextualize it into sort of broader geopolitical chessboard, I believe is very similar to Palestine, in the sense that it is and historically has been kind of a fault line of empire, from its 1804 revolution that began the end of chattel slavery in the Americas, from the election of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who was the first popular democratically elected president in Haiti, and that portended the rise of the pink tide, populist progressive leaders in Latin America, Hugo Chavez, Evo Morales, Lula, despite his flaws, et cetera, et cetera. And so while there are very few journalists who pay attention to Haiti, understanding Haiti, I think, is critical to understanding where a lot of countries are going into the future, and the model for revolution that Haiti is undergoing right now. I think we can take a lot of that and apply it to other countries, whether here in the United States or elsewhere. So it's not just a niche issue. And while it may appear that way, I think it's essential to pay attention to it. So my guest is my close colleague, collaborator, and friend, Kim Ives, who I'm going to bring in just a second. We made the documentary series Another Vision, which you can find on my site, on my YouTube site, my YouTube channel, Uncaptured Media. It's also on my website, uncaptured.media. It's a 3-part series called Another Vision Inside Haiti's Uprising. And this is where we essentially lay out our case that Haiti is undergoing a revolutionary process, and the figure at the center of this is a guy named Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier, who you may have heard some scary things about. But we basically debunk the propaganda around him. We thoroughly examine all the claims against him. We also did another piece called we did it for Redacted back in November of 2022, where Cherizier led a battle against basically the United States and International Monetary Fund imposing fuel price hikes on the island, on the country. And there was a popular uprising against it. And at that point, Cherizier went and actually battled to have these removed. He was eventually overtaken. And finally, in, I believe, April of this year, earlier this year, we released our most recent documentary report on Haiti called Haiti Intervention versus Revolution, which you can find again on my YouTube channel, on Uncaptured Media's YouTube, on Rumble. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to bring in Kim. Hey, Kim, how are you?
Hey, good. How you doing? Let me get myself back up there. Okay. Hi.
All right. Thanks for joining, Kim. Always good to have you. Kim has been working in Haiti since before I was born, and I'll state my age as I'm 39 years old. So he knows a fair bit about the country and has been doing it for a while. So good to have him here.
Thank you, Dan. Glad to be here.
So Kim, I think we need to basically address what's going on right now. I mean, of course, I had the privilege to speak at the UN Security Council this week on Wednesday, November 20th, which was a very interesting moment. Of course, you spoke at the UN Security Council back in 2022. Was it in 2022?
Yes, December 21st.
Okay, December 21st, 2022. You spoke at the UN Security Council. I had the privilege to speak there a couple of days ago, and I delivered a message against intervention, which we'll get to, and so we'll play my speech there, my intervention rather. But first,
if I can just interject, I was speaking to a former prominent Haitian who will remain nameless, but has some influence. But he said you stopped that intervention in its tracks with that statement. So that's a little preview for the listeners.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope so, because it's impossible to know what kind of impact our work actually have, whether it's making documentaries or it's hard to measure these things. You just kind of put it out into the ether and see what happens.
Right.
So, I mean, if there's a grain of truth to that statement, then I'm satisfied.
Yes.
So we're in this sort of perilous moment, I think, Kim, in which the U.S. has been trying since 2021, since the assassination of President Jovenel Moise, to organize an armed invasion, is what it really is, not an intervention. An intervention is when a legitimate government requests a foreign power to intervene in its country, but there's no legitimate government to request. The president was assassinated, and this assassination has U.S. fingerprints all over it, which has been covered, and we're not going to cover here today. We're not going to delve into that today, but the U.S. has been trying to organize this invasion of Haiti, and it's basically stalled out. It got the UN Security Council to bless what it called the Multinational Security Support Mission, the MSS. This is the acronym it uses. And that involved bringing in, do you know exactly how many Kenyan mercenaries? I can't hear you, Kim. We lost you. Can't hear you. Kim is, for some reason, your mic is not connected.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened. Yeah,
okay.
It's connected for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 430. Some of them are Jamaicans, and I think there's a handful of like 3 or 4 Bahamians in there. And but it's about 430 right now. But mostly all Kenyans.
Right. So, okay, so the vast majority are Kenyans. There's some Jamaicans. I saw that Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, has
Yeah.
said that he would send some of his men in there. Um, and this is simply not enough to be able to wage any kind of invasion. Really a few or several dozen to back up the sort of
Yeah.
anemic, totally corrupt Haitian National Police against an increasingly united armed front known as Viv Ansanm, live together in Haitian Creole. It's not enough. And so the US, after it got the UN Security Council, including, which of course includes its geopolitical rivals, China and Russia, to agree to or to not veto this MSS to send these mercenaries in. Now the US is saying, no, we need a full UN intervention, or rather an invasion. And so if you can just kind of paint a picture of what's been going on since this MSS began, and how Viv Ansanm has come together, and where we are in this moment.
Yes, well, this would be the fourth invasion, and I would even qualify the invitation to foreign troops in 1994 by Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who was the legitimate president, although he was in Washington at the time because he'd had a coup d'etat in 91. But that was really an invasion too, because he was forced to do it with a gun to his head. Basically, the U.S. said the only way you're getting back is if you agreed to our conditions of neoliberal reform to Haiti, and if you don't, you're not going anywhere. And he agreed, and when he came back, well, that's a whole other story. So this will be or is the fourth foreign military intervention officially since 1915, and which was the first U.S. Marines came in and took over Haiti for 19 years. The second one was that 94 intervention. The third one was a 2004 intervention. And now this MSS, which was a compromise, which the U.S. ambassador to the UN called a new way of preserving global peace and security. De Laurentiis is his name. And it was essentially a compromise because I think with my intervention in December 2022, it stopped it for a while, and Russia and China felt they had enough ammo to basically argue against it. And so that was the compromise they came with. We're going to send in troops who will not be a UN force that is under the control and supervision of the Security Council, but will have the blessing, the benediction of the Security Council. So this was the new way of preserving global peace and security. The problem is the U.S. doesn't have the money to pay for it. $600 million to pay for these 2,500 troops. It's supposed to be 2,500. It's only 400 because this so-called coalition of the willing can't find anybody who's willing. Nobody wants to get into this mess, which they see in Haiti. And so the Kenyans are left there with their pants hanging out. And we see them practically doing nothing, being very ineffective. And they're just mercenaries anyway. They don't want to get anything but their salaries, which are 10 times more than the Haitian cops, who are the ones doing all the fighting. So it's a total mess. It's a disaster. And the U.S. is paying for 2/3 of it, 3/4 of it. And they want to shift that burden over to the UN. But as our friend Jake Johnston over at the Center for Economic and Policy Research said, even that's not easy because the peacekeeping budget at the UN is not being paid. A lot of the countries who have sent peacekeepers are waiting for their money. And it's only going to get worse under Donald Trump, who, as we know, has great animosity for the UN and the globalist architecture. So basically, that's where we are with an ineffectual intervention. And the Viv Ansanm coalition basically making strides and gaining ground, with the government basically falling apart and in total disarray. They just jettisoned the first prime minister they put in back in April, and they put in a new guy who is essentially the embodiment of the Haitian bourgeoisie. He is at the head of a number of business people, bourgeois groups who are taking over Haiti. But ironically, this is for the sector called the Lavalas and Unité sector, which was Aristide and Preval, his so-called twin. So the two of them had these two parties, Lavalas and Unité, and so this sector of businessmen are the one taking over. So we see the two leaders of the last 3 decades who were fighting with the U.S. are now its handmaidens. So it's a very sad situation. But the Viv Ansanm, as we've described it in the past, is basically Aristide with a gun. They are demanding the basics of life for the poor of Haiti, and we'll see if they succeed.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few things I want to flesh out a little bit there. One, that Leslie Voltaire, who is now the interim president.
Yes, rotating president of this 9-member presidential council.
Right, which is just totally absurd. Of course, this council is not elected, but appointed by Anthony Blinken, and that's something I said in my speech at the Security Council. But Leslie Voltaire, what you're just saying, Leslie Voltaire from the Lavalas party, these guys, the Lavalas, were the ones who were supposed to be the revolutionaries in the 90s and who the U.S. couped twice. These are the social revolutionaries, and now they've become the biggest defenders of the status quo. And faced with an armed revolution, which is what Viv Ansanm represents, they have become the biggest tools of the U.S. They are the ones who helped, who actually the propaganda campaign regarding an incident, a battle in La Saline, which came to be known as the La Saline massacre, but as we found in our investigations, and we examined this thoroughly in the first episode of Another Vision, was not a massacre at all, but a battle. And in fact, and this actually escaped our investigation. We figured this out later, thanks to our friend Travis Ross, who's a great journalist on Haiti, and he found that it was actually great researcher. He publishes frequently with Haiti Liberté. He found that it was actually like a Lavalas official or party member who came up with this whole smear campaign against Cherizier to get him labeled as some kind of terrorist or mass murderer. And so you have that, and then you have Leslie Voltaire, who's now the phony U.S. appointed interim president in this rotating cast of clown car figures. So there's a real irony, but for anyone who really has looked at the history of revolutions, this is a pattern that you see. The other thing, so I think, feel free to I'll kind of explain a bit of my observation. Feel free to jump in, Kim. But as the U.S. and the UN have bared down on Haiti, Cherizier's message, Barbecue's message to the other leaders, neighborhood leaders in Port-au-Prince, has increasingly resonated, because all along, and you'll see this in our documentary, in Another Vision, all along his message has been, let's stop fighting with each other and let's unite to have a revolution against the people who are keeping us in these conditions, who are paying this guy and that guy and that guy to attack the next neighborhood, who are giving us the bullets. Let's just overturn this whole paradigm.
Turn the guns on them.
Exactly. And so that has not always resonated, but as it didn't always resonate, and he would try and it wouldn't go anywhere, and he'd fight with these guys and at the same time make pleas with them and literally get down on a knee and
And
ask, and
right. And
to the people.
let me jump in there. And we show that in Intervention versus Revolution, really this process. But it came to a head. It came to a head really right after we finished filming, when Ariel Henry left the country to go sign the final agreement to have Kenyan troops deployed. And he said to those guys, listen, they're coming for me and they might get me, but then they're coming for you. So it's in your interest to join with me. We have the same class interest, basically, that of the proletariat and the lumpen proletariat. Let us join together against this bourgeoisie, which has been pitting us against each other all this time. And it's starting to gel now. It's herding cats. He's not got control. It's not a hierarchical organization, but it is starting to take shape. Yeah, back to you.
Exactly. So you see this process in which the more that the US and the UN and these foreign powers threaten Haiti, they bear down with the threat of this invasion to basically reinforce the status quo of controlled chaos and poverty and exploitation for the masses, and enormous profits and wealth and riches for the tiny elite who live in mansions above Port-au-Prince. And you can see these mansions in our reporting in the piece we did in November 2022, where we flew our drone around, and massive mansions in the hills that look like Beverly Hills with swimming pools and helicopter pads. And then you look out, you drive a few minutes and look out into these sprawling slums. So Haiti is not what people, just what people imagine, where it's just sheer poverty of the worst kind. It's intentional, it's impoverished, it's people being impoverished and making huge amounts. So this is the status quo that the foreign powers want, and the local elites, the oligarchy wants to maintain. And as these forces have bear down on Haiti, Cherizier's message has begun to resonate more. And so this whole process of uniting this kind of disparate patchwork of armed groups through these neighborhoods where there's all kinds of bad blood and fighting and history, suddenly it's like, okay, there's something bigger that we all need to focus on. And indeed, last year in 2023, they managed to uh, eject Ariel Henry. When Ariel Henry, the de facto prime minister,
they formed the Viv Ansanm. Ariel Henry came in February 29th of this year.
Oh yes, you're right. Sorry, that was this year. Yeah. So they I'm sorry. So they earlier this year on February 29th, the Viv Ansanm, which at that point was kind of seemed to be stillborn, was not really working, and Cherizier was frustrated, and we show that in our most recent documentary in in Intervention or Revolution. You see Intervention versus Revolution. You see Cherizier is still hoping it works out, but it's not really working at that point. And so what happened is, when Ariel Henry, the de facto prime minister appointed by the US, a total finger puppet, flew to Kenya to sign this bilateral agreement to have these Kenyan mercenaries come in to Haiti, that is when Cherizier, Viv Ansanm went to, they attacked the airport as he was coming back, so he could not land, and he was basically ejected from the country. And it ended up being that the new regime that was put in place by the U.S. through an agreement in Kingston, Jamaica, was, they just went along with this legal mumbo jumbo fiction of a bilateral agreement. And these, I just want to show an article that I wrote. Let me just pull it up here, of who these Kenyan mercenaries that the U.S. paid to come in are. I mean, if you, researching for this article was simply shocking. Kenya has death squads in the police that for decades have terrorized, brutalized, murdered, disappeared the population, dissidents of various stripes, to the point where even these death squads, when a member came out and said that they exist, he was disappeared. He was killed. He was disappeared. The UN special rapporteur on extrajudicial executions and torture and disappearances, I think is the term. Kim, okay, stepped away for a second. When he, Kim, oh, he can't. I don't know if he can hear me. Kim, you with me?
I hear you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Sorry.
Try to avoid letting your microphone rub on your shirt.
Oh, sorry. No, I just had to jump up to get some. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, but it's happening when you're talking too.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's okay. Just so you know. So these death squads are just rampant in Kenya. And in 2009, the UN Special Rapporteur wrote a report calling them death squads. The Kenyan human rights investigators who provided information for that report were murdered right in front of a police station. So, I mean, you're talking about a real nightmare situation in Kenya that still exists to this day. It's still there. So, that's who the U.S. is bribing to come into Haiti. So, with that said, that's kind of the current situation. So I want to we'll give a little bit more. Let's see. I'll give a little bit more context. What we can do is talk about some of the police terror that we've been watching and witnessing, because the whole pretext for this intervention is that there are these gangs that are terrorizing the population, and Port-au-Prince has been taken over. 80% of Port-au-Prince is controlled by gangs, and there was this whole propaganda campaign, and particularly on X, but to say that Haitians are cannibals and led by this guy Barbecue, who's the leader of a cannibal gang, and this was totally false. Without going into all the details of how a video of some lunatic gang member in another part of Haiti was filmed eating some burnt flesh, which was horrific, this became suddenly, oh no, that was Barbecue, which it was not Barbecue. And he's called Barbecue because he likes to eat people and burn his victims, which is a narrative that had been laid years before, thanks to Vice. So, in fact, the biggest gang is the Haitian National Police, which is a tool of the United States and the political class in Haiti. And we, Uncaptured Media and Haiti Liberté, got our, we were given footage of a police execution of a man in the street in downtown Port-au-Prince. So I'm going to show I don't want this stream to get demonetized or restricted, soft censored on YouTube. So I'm only going to show up to right before the execution takes place. But here you can see it. I published it on YouTube. And so this is from the beginning. So if you watch, okay, you see the red circle, you can see this. There's someone who just came out of his house and he's in his neighborhood here.
Maybe summoned by the cop whose doors open.
Possibly. It could be. That very well could be.
We don't know. Yeah.
Oh, and you can actually see, I didn't even notice this before. You can see the turret on top of the vehicle actually following him. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the turret is, so let's show that again. So you see him walking. The turret actually turns to follow him. Okay, so he disappears out of the frame for a second. And then you'll see him pop up right there. I put the red circle on there so you can see him just walking through this mess. Okay, he's calmly walking towards the police vehicle. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he goes to the passenger side, and there's the police right there. Okay, you can see he's talking to the police. Doesn't seem like he presents any kind of danger or threat. And I think that's where I should probably end it, is right there, because that's where we're going to get busted with by YouTube. But at that moment, the police officer sitting in his vehicle shoots this man
From the vehicle.
From the vehicle. He shoots him, and then the man falls down on the ground and tries to get away. And as he's trying to get away, the police officer steps out of his vehicle and walks closer to the man and executes him, splatters the man's blood and brains all over the pavement. And then he proceeds to pick his pocket. He goes through his pockets to see what he can find. He takes whatever was in his pocket, presumably a wallet, throws it in the police vehicle. And then the next scene is them driving away, and then they drive back and run over the guy's dead body. They run over the corpse. So just total disrespect after they murder and rob him.
Yeah.
So this is the criminal activity that you see from the Haitian National Police, who we are being told are the good guys who the U.S. just has to support to take out the gangs. So whatever you think of Viv Ansanm, if you think they're revolutionaries, if you think they're gang members, or somewhere in between, if you're not sure, you can be absolutely certain that the biggest gang members, the biggest gang in Haiti, is the Haitian National Police, which is funded by the United States.
And the Viv Ansanm has been saying this repeatedly in the live streams they do on TikTok. For those who speak Creole, they can go on Chrisla's TikTok, or Jimmy Cherizier, who's playing whack-a-mole with TikTok because they keeps getting censored, but he pops up somewhere else. And they've explained repeatedly how the cops are massacring people in the poor neighborhoods. And now it's not just the Viv Ansanm in this video that are telling the story. The Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, one of the most
I'll pull that up, Kim. I'll pull that up. Hold on a sec. Okay. Yeah, I have that queued up. So exactly. I mean, I can just pull up the article from Doctors Without Borders.
Right.
Here we go.
I did an interview with Turkish TV with the director of Doctors Without Borders there. The police stopped a car. The doctors in it said, "No, you can't take these wounded that we have in the back out. They're going to the hospital." They threatened them with rape. There was women involved, or death. And finally, they threw tear gas into the car. The people had to get out, and they took the occupants, 3 of them, from the car, and they shot them. 2 of them died. 1 might have escaped. This is this is the death squads who are fighting the Viv Ansanm.
Exactly. I mean, and this conduct, this is Doctors Without Borders is the most mainstream medical NGO that exists. I mean, this is not some radical group. I mean, this is, the establishment, and the Haitian police officers, along with armed vigilantes, are stopping vehicles. I mean, according to this press release from Doctors Without Borders, we can go through it. Police officers have stopped MSF vehicles multiple times, directly threatened MSF staff members, including by threatening death and rape. Okay, this follows an attack on an MSF ambulance that resulted in the execution of at least 2 patients and physical harm to our staff. And these are repeated incidents. Okay, there is so what they say is that so here are the repeated incidents. November 12th, police threatened to kill Doctors Without Borders staff in the near future. Okay, here's another verbal assault. Here is a SWAT team on November 17th threatened to kill a patient on the spot. And then here's another threat. Here's on November 18th. And let's see, maybe it might be here. Okay, I think this is the okay. Killing of at least 2 patients stopped by members of a vigilante group and law enforcement officers. So the attempt to arrest the patients, firing shots in the air. The police and vigilantes slashed the tires, tear gassed the Doctors Without Borders personnel inside the vehicle to force them out, then took the wounded patients a short distance away outside the hospital grounds, where at least 2 of them were executed.
Right. The third one may have escaped, or did escape, they said.
Okay. So this is, this is the conduct of the Haitian National Police, who, again, we're told are just outmanned, undergunned. This is the biggest gang in Haiti. These are the killers. So, you'll never hear about this. I mean, even though it's Doctors Without Borders, you will never hear about this on CNN or in the New York Times. They just won't really touch it. So this just escapes all mainstream coverage. Even though, again, Doctors Without Borders. So now I want to turn to show my. Maybe we should we show each? I think could be useful. Hold on, let me just get through this.
I just before we show your thing, Ben, I just would like to say a word about the vigilantes.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, I think that's worth even exploring for a few minutes. I was thinking that because we're, this is the kind of Bois-Calais phenomenon.
Yeah. Let me make a brief presentation. Indulge me for a minute. In 1987, before Dan was born.
No, I was. Yes, I was a whopping 2 years old.
2 years old. I was in the town of Petit Gouave. We were filming 16 millimeter film. It was shortly after the fall of the Duvalier dictatorship, and the bourgeoisie was taking advantage of the chaos to import things into the country without any duty. And so they were using foreign ports outside of Port-au-Prince, such as that in Petit Gouave, where they had, a boat off the shore and people bringing stuff in on rowboats, refrigerators on a rowboat teetering. And we're filming this. And the bourgeois who were running the port saw us and they panicked. They ran in with their big sombreros flopping and said, "Get those people. They're trying to take your jobs." And the crowd on the dock immediately went ballistic. They surrounded us with machetes being wielded, stuffing straw in our pockets and taking out matches. And they were going to burn us and kill us. And we managed to extract ourselves from that situation. I think they took pause because we had blanc, foreigners, whites, myself included, in the crew. And we escaped the scene. But it was just to show you how a mob violence can quickly get out of control. And even though you're trying to do something to help the people, to show them, listen, these guys are fleecing you by, avoiding any tariffs. So now let's fast forward 40 years to the Bois-Calais movement. And it's very important to remember dialectics here, where things can become their opposite. The Bois-Calais movement means a movement where they were taking justice into their own hands. Mobs, similar to that, would go after criminal gangs. And this was in a period when Jimmy Cherizier, the leader of the Viv Ansanm, had a group called the G9, which was fighting the criminal gangs, which were in a group called the GPEP. And they'd been battling most of the last 3 years, 3 years since 2020, when G9 was formed. JPEP was formed the day after. And so at that point, it was kind of a spontaneous progressive movement, trying to stop the predations of the criminal gangs, which were kidnapping, extorting, raping, etc. And Jimmy Cherizier, in fact, supported the Bois-Calais at that moment. But now things have radically changed. He has joined with those groups, is trying to reform them, has basically said no more kidnapping, no more extortion, no more crimes against the people. We're turning all our guns on the bourgeoisie now. We're not going to have anything to do against the people. And but what the bourgeoisie has done is they've co-opted the Bois-Calais name or brand, and they've funded groups, basically they're auxiliaries of the police, given them guns, given them money, given them ammunition to set up barricades. And this is to basically intercept people coming from any Viv Ansanm area and execute them on the spot. And even if they're carrying a Bible or going to church or going to see a relative, one, and two, to choke off supply lines or revenue streams for the Viv Ansanm, because a lot of what they do, a lot the way the FARC did in Colombia, for example, they'd have a war tax on any traffic going along the roads through their territory. This is what the Viv Ansanm does. They stop traffic and they say, okay, you got to give us $10 or $20 or whatever, so they can pay their soldiers, et cetera. So that's their revenue stream, especially since the kidnapping and all that are supposed to be off the table. This is the same co-optation the bourgeoisie always does. I remember growing up in the 60s and 70s, we had the peace generation, those resisting the Vietnam War. Well, they turned that into the Pepsi generation. They co-opted it and gave you the Partridge Family and I'd like to teach the world to sing. You can take BLM, for example, which started as a genuine movement, but then it's now become a corporate hashtag. So this is the kind of co-optation that happens. And so you'll hear Bois Calais and the vigilantes, it's the people rising up. No, this is the bourgeoisie is paying people to fight the Viv Ansanm, which has the bourgeoisie panicked, scared, and on the run. And so that's just to explain about the vigilante question that you're going to hear raised and people saying Bois Calais, Bois Calais. It's not the old Bois Calais, it's the new Bois Calais 2.0, which is the bourgeoisie-owned Bois Calais.
Maybe, Kim, the other thing we should address, actually, I think, is I've gotten comments, maybe a handful of comments. I mean, I'll say very few, but regarding the footage that we got of this execution, that, of course, if you see in the top left corner, it says EZO satellite. And so anyone who pays attention to Haiti knows who EZO is. He has been one of the major criminal armed group leaders, but is now part of Viv Ansanm. And so one of the comments that I got was, we actually cut the footage so it would be seen as so you could see closer. And it's vertical. So for, when most people are watching on their phone, so instead of this kind of horizontal video with everything, it's vertical. And you basically had to cut the sides off. And people are saying, oh, well, if people knew where this footage was from, who filmed it? And of course, this was a drone belonging to Viv Ansanm, clearly to EZO. And so, to me, it shouldn't matter where the footage come from, where the footage was filmed. If it was filmed by the devil himself, it's a police execution. It's a crime, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter where the footage comes from.
We look at WikiLeaks collateral murder video. It was filmed by a helicopter gunship's camera. That doesn't make it any less real and tragic and disgusting. So the source, and a word about EZO. Just in passing to the people who made that comment. On November 9th, I was contacted by a Mary Knoll nun who said, listen, I have some friends down in Delma 60. She has 2 grandsons and 2 other kids that she's taking care of who were kidnapped on their way to school along with their driver, and they're holding a journalist too. They're asking $100,000 per head for the kids. What's going on? Can you find out about this? I wrote to Cherizier and said, listen, what's going on? Can you find out what's going on? I didn't hear. But 4 days later, he had a video and he was standing there with the kids, the driver and the journalist, and said, these people are all going free. We don't do this anymore. A group of Viv Ansanm did it. They're being sanctioned. We don't tolerate this anymore. They're being sanctioned and these people are free to go. And we're sorry it happened. And this happened in part because it was done by a guy called Kempes Sanon, who was the Bel Air guy who Jimmy Cherizier was fighting for many years, who the same people who are probably writing that used to defend, saying, oh, Cherizier is attacking Bel Air, poor Bel Air. No, Bel Air was Kempes Sanon, who was a convicted kidnapper, had been in jail for life, but escaped. In any case, the Viv Ansanm members got on the phone, and Izzo said to him, he said, listen, Kempis, if you keep those people, it's going to be fatal for you. You better not do that. You can't do that anymore. None of us can do that. So that's Izzo. Now, I'm not going to pass my hand through fire for Izzo. I don't know him. I've never met him. And he's done some bad things, which one day he'll have to make amends for. But the point is that Jimmy Cherizier's moral authority is being gradually imposed on these guys. And Dan, you and I did it back in April with my favorite Arab, or I forget his name, the YouTuber who Lamor Saint-Jour had kidnapped. And we called Jimmy and said, listen, are you aware of this? He said, let me find out. And he got the guy freed after telling Lamor Saint-Jour, you can't do this, dude. You got to let him go.
Yeah, your fellow Arab, that YouTuber.
Your fellow Arab, yeah.
Yeah, who showed up in Haiti and got kidnapped. And then when I saw what was going on X, on Twitter, I saw a post, something he'd been kidnapped. I sprung into action, called Kim, called Barbecue, and Barbecue called Lamor Saint-Jour from 400 Mauzo, and basically got him released. And then it was about the stupidest thing that anyone could do, is just fly into, he actually flew into the DR, crossed over into Haiti, and, just tried to make his way down from the north to Port-au-Prince, which is going through all kinds of terrain controlled by all kinds of different groups, and is just asking to get kidnapped. So the funny thing is, when we got him released, we were accused of orchestrating some kind of operation to make Barbecue look like a good guy. And then this guy, your fellow Arab, this YouTuber, he didn't even credit us. He did these, this kind of sort of first person documentary series, which I'm sure he made a whole ton of money off of. He didn't even credit us. And then he DM'd me right when he was released, I guess, and said, yeah, you were correct. What you said is correct. Barbecue got me out. But then in his documentary, he didn't give us any credit. He didn't. So as far as I can tell, he was just pretty much dishonest about, at least our role in getting him out.
Well, I think we gave him the heads up. I think when Cherizier would have found out about it, he would have done the same thing. So I'm not sure it's because we asked, but I'm not.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I'm not saying it's because we asked, but yes, certainly when, as Cherizier's position is in principle, as a matter of principle, is against kidnapping, and that's why he did it, not because it was a favor to us, but we did have a role in alerting Cherizier, which then got him out, and that I think was just totally covered up and ignored, which is kind of funny. But so let's take a look at my speech to the UN Security Council. Hopefully we're not interrupted by ads. It's about 8 minute and 22 second speech. So here's what I said at the UN Security Council on Wednesday, November 20th.
1772nd meeting, a 90-second meeting, of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is a question concerning Haiti. The agenda is adopted. I now give the floor to Mr. Dan Cohen.
Distinguished members of the Council, I'm an investigative journalist and documentary filmmaker, one of the few independent journalists to report from Haiti in recent years. My most recent film is titled Haiti, Intervention versus Revolution. The UN Security Council is being asked to approve deployment of another so-called peacekeeping mission to Haiti. Let us recall that Haiti has been under US and UN occupation for 21 of the last 30 years, from 1994 to 2000 by UNME, UNSME, UNTME, and MIPONU, and from 2004 to 2019 by MINUSTA and MINUJUST. However, those 2+ decades of occupation never achieved their stated goals. In fact, UN soldiers, under the familiar pretext of combating gangs, in one operation that became emblematic of their conduct, wantonly fired some 22,000 bullets into the slum of Cité Soleil, killing residents in their ramshackle houses. These UN troops were also responsible for crimes against the Haitian people, from the introduction of cholera, to the rape of children, for which they were never held accountable. Now the Haitian people are being asked once again to let UN troops occupy their nation. Yet it is clear that there is another agenda at play. The United States government, my government, seeks to impose its will on Haiti with or without the approval of this country. Don't take my word for it. In December 2021, China and Russia voted to limit the Security Council mandate for U.S. trainers to the Haitian National Police to only 9 months rather than the 12 months that Washington sought. This outraged U.S. Senator Robert Menendez, then the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. During a briefing to his committee, Menendez rhetorically asked a State Department official, "Why do you think China and Russia stopped us?" He answered his own question, saying, "They want total unrest in the hemisphere. That's their whole purpose, and this hemisphere is creating instability." He added, "At some point, we have to think about how to circumvent that." In 2023, Washington indeed found a way to circumvent the UN Security Council when it was prevented from once again using this body, as it did in 1994 and 2004, to further its interventionist goals in Haiti. It concocted the Multinational Security Support Mission, or MSS, which U.S. Representative to the UN, Jeffrey De Laurentiis, called a new way of preserving global peace and security. Indeed, the United States has enacted legislation known as the Global Fragility Act, which might be better described as the Crumbling Empire Act. This bipartisan legislation, signed into law by President Trump in 2019 and continued under the Biden administration, seeks to combine military force and soft power to push back against the growing influence of China and Russia, which Washington, still applying its long discredited Imperial Monroe Doctrine, sees as a threat. Haiti is the pilot case for this new strategy, which the U.S. openly stated it seeks to apply to so-called fragile states around the world, beginning with Libya, Mozambique, Papua New Guinea, and Benin, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Guinea, and Togo in West Africa. This intervention assumes that the Haitian people are incapable of solving their own problems, an insulting notion to those who know Haitian history. An intervention would be first and foremost a violation of Haitian sovereignty, but even more so, it would empower and support the forces which have carried out the most heinous acts of violence in Haiti today. My outlet, Uncaptured Media, in collaboration with Haiti Liberté, recently published footage we obtained of a Haitian National Police officer summarily executing an unarmed civilian, picking his pocket, and then running over his corpse with an armored vehicle provided by the United States, ostensibly to fight gangs. This is not an isolated incident. A September 30th report by the panel of experts established pursuant to Security Council Resolution 2653, addressed to the Security Council's president, noted that from January 1st to March 31st, 2024, 590 civilians unrelated to gangs were killed or injured during police operations against gangs. The document cited reports that police officers had carried out extrajudicial executions, as seen in the footage we published. One must also note that the Kenyan police forces sent to Haiti under the auspices of the MSS have an abysmal human rights record going back decades. A 2009 report by the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial, Summary, or Arbitrary Executions, Philip Alston, found, quote, death squads operating on the order of senior police officials, end quote, killed 1,113 people following Kenya's December 2007 elections. Little has changed since then. Even the U.S. State Department's Kenya 2018 rights report noted, quote, all unlawful and politically motivated killings, forced disappearances, torture, harsh and life-threatening prison conditions, end quote. Any UN operation would work hand in glove with these corrupt Haitian and Kenyan police officers. The proposed UN intervention, like that of the MSS, is a violation of Haitian law and the UN Charter. Haiti has no elected government, but a regime effectively appointed by the outgoing U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. Interim President Leslie Voltaire, who most recently requested UN military intervention, has zero legal authority, like former Prime Ministers Ariel Henry, Gary Coney, and now Didier Fioseme. Not one of them has ever been elected, nor holds any respect or legitimacy One thing, real quick, let me just pause. I I just love that the cameraman chose to. I mean, I assume this was a conscious decision. That as I'm dressing down these this phony unelected regime, they actually pan to the Haitian diplomat and then the British. And when I was talking about the U.S. earlier, they actually showed the U.S. diplomat. So I think that just must be how they do it. Is if you're talking about them, then they show it. So hats off to the the man operating the camera system there. Okay, we'll go back to it. Outside of Washington, D.C. and this building. That such an illegal intervention is even being considered is an insult and affront to the Haitian people. From my numerous visits to Haiti in recent years, it is clear that the overwhelming majority of the Haitian people do not want another intervention. In 2023, as this council considered whether to bless the MSS, Haitian popular organizations hung banners across main thoroughfares in Port-au-Prince saying no to intervention and reminding the population of the cholera outbreak it introduced. The only sector of the Haitian population that supports an intervention are the tiny few that stand to benefit from it, who disproportionately live outside of the country and who profit from the status quo of controlled chaos. They're the corrupt oligarchs who funded the armed groups to do their bidding and have now lost control of them. And those who Washington's soft power arms like USAID and the National Endowment for Democracy have groomed as its preferred future leaders of Haiti. For anyone who naively believes that foreign armed intervention would benefit the Haitian people, one only needs to examine the results of previous interventions and remember the old adage, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. In fact, this proposed intervention could be worse. Haiti is awash in military-grade weapons imported from the United States thanks to lax gun laws and porous borders. An intervention would meet stiff armed resistance and would cause bloodshed to the Haitian population and among UN troops. Haiti's history is marked by its resistance to foreign invasions from its glorious 1804 revolution until today. Haitian sovereignty must be respected, but first reestablished by the Haitian people themselves. Let Haitians, not foreign bodies, choose their leaders and their future. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. So there's my address to the UN Security Council regarding this U.S. proposal for an intervention, which is really an invasion of Haiti. Kim, I'll ask you for your comments in a minute, but I mean, a few things I want to address. Again, hats off to the cameraman who showed those diplomats. The British. I thought, gosh, scratching his head. The Haitian just sitting there. The Haitian regime guy just kind of taking it, and what can he do? But if what you said earlier on in the stream is true, that had some kind of impact, that this intervention won't happen, then I pray that's the case.
Well, it'll come down to whether the Russia and China are going to veto it, because I think the U.S. on the council, as in its current configuration, which is pretty U.S. centric from the speeches we heard, they may have the votes for it, maybe not unanimous, but I think it would require a veto from Russia or China, which I hope they would do to stop this just constant usage of the UN as a proxy for U.S. imperialist maintenance.
Right, exactly. So the other thing I want to talk about is, I kind of gave a list of different.
Oh, and by the way, the same day they vetoed the Gaza ceasefire.
Right, exactly. Just a few hours earlier, the U.S. was the country that again vetoed a ceasefire in
14-1, yeah.
Right, in Gaza. So, the U.S. standing alone as the defenders and enablers of the Gaza genocide. So one of the other things I mentioned in my address was the tiny few who support this intervention are those who profit from it, who disproportionately live outside of the country, those who benefit from the controlled chaos, and this one in particular, the figures who the U.S. soft power outlets, U.S. aid and the National Endowment for Democracy have groomed as the future leaders. This is like the liberal elites, in particular, maybe Gen Z types who have who want to take power and who really have no idea what's going on, but just want power. And they're the most vociferous in demanding them. And here is a perfect example of exactly who I was talking about, who lashed out at me on Twitter. And so her name is Velina Charlier. She says, Dan Cohen is a champion at defending barbecue. The same Charlier sanctioned by the UN. Seems like the UN Security Council and UN need a proper briefing about who, I guess she means they, allow to speak. Or they're just hypocrites who don't really give an F about us. So Velina Charlier, let me see if I can pull up my response to her. Here we go. Okay, so I quote tweeted her. In my speech to the UN Security Council, I stated that the only sector of the Haitian population that supports an intervention are the tiny few who stand to benefit from it, including those who Washington's soft power arms like USAID and the NED have groomed as its preferred future leaders of Haiti. Velina Charlier is the textbook example of exactly that. She is on the payroll of the U.S. government. She works for a company called Digicel, and Digicel is funded by USAID. This is one of the most corrupt organizations, businesses in Haiti. So she's getting money from the U.S. and has a second passport. She's also a Canadian citizen. And she is calling for an intervention. Now, when I say she has no idea what she's talking about, this was an incredible moment that I'll show you. And I was actually, so this is from a hearing here in Washington that I attended back in September 29th, 2022, in which they were discussing basically what to do about this terrible gang problem in Haiti, and before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and they had invited a handful of figures from Haiti, these kind of liberal interventionist tools, to give testimony. Among them were the top human rights figures, so-called human rights figures from this phony human rights outfit called the National Network for the Defense of Human Rights, commonly known in Haiti as the RNDDH. We've covered them extensively in our documentaries, in our reporting. This is just a poison machine, a lie factory that works on behalf of the empire, funded by the NED, funded by the Alexander Soros's now Open Society Foundation, the American Jewish World Service, which is not Jewish at all, is actually first and foremost funded by Eric Schmidt, the ex-Google CEO and Pentagon contractor. Somehow they just call themselves Jewish. I don't know, which I find totally offensive as a Jew. But this is Velina Charlier. Velina Charlier was there, and this is California Representative Sarah Jacobs, I think is her name. Sarah Jacobs, yes, asking these Haitians who have been invited to give testimony about the gangs are so bad, if they know what the Global Fragility Act is. And maybe I'll just say the Global Fragility Act, before I show this, is the U.S.'s 10-year plan, which I spoke about in my speech, 10-year plan for getting a military presence, a military occupation into Haiti. And that and Haiti, again, is the pilot case. This is the place where they want to do it first, and then they
bilateral agreement. Yeah.
Yes, through it has to be through a so-called bilateral agreement where they basically get a puppet unelected regime like this Haitian council that they've installed to agree to it. And that's what Ariel Henry was doing, was signing this bilateral agreement when he was, well, with the Kenyans, but when he was ousted. So this whole thing is based on this total charade of democracy where the U.S. just appoints someone to sign the agreement with them. So this is supposed to be the new way of dealing of the U.S. helping Haiti. And here's Valina, them asking the Haitians who were invited about it.
The Biden administration has been working to implement the Global Fragility Act passed by this body, which is intended to address the root causes of violence and instability in recipient countries over 10 years. I hope that Haiti's selection as a priority country will be a well-timed opportunity to pivot the U.S. strategy in Haiti. So my question is to Mrs. Charlier, Ms. Ducena, and Mr. Pierre Villus. What do you know about the Global Fragility Act and how it will be implemented? And have your organizations or organizations you know been consulted on this strategy?
No, we haven't been consulted on it, and we don't know much about it.
And I'm seeing head nods from the others, Representative Jacobs, in case you can't see them.
Thank you. Well, that is very concerning. The Biden administration.
Yeah.
So it's too bad that it's just too bad that you can't see me. I was at that hearing. I'm just off to the where are we? Off to the left of the screen. I'm there, and I'm literally like slapping my knees just watching this moment that these people have no idea what's going on around them. They're just, we know we want a foreign invasion because, we'll then sit on top of the burning heap of destruction and death. And so Valina Charlier right there, you can see has no idea what's going on. She's a complete fraud. She's been invited to give testimony, and she doesn't even know what's going on around her. None of them do. Neither does Rosie Auguste, who is now the new face of this phony human rights group, the
RNDDH.
Yes, the RNDDH, which I discussed before. So these people are just finger puppets for the U.S. government and its plans to occupy Haiti. So,
and if I could just make one precision, Dan, the thing is they can't really bring in the Global Fragility Act with this appointed government, which they know it's not going to fly very far. Their idea is they got to get an elected government. And so that's really the role. And that's why they have to rely on a proxy. Because in 1915, the U.S. came in, they took over the country, and then they found somebody, a guy called Siddharth Tiganav, a senator, to invite them in. So it was too ugly. Everybody saw it. All history said, what a joke. They're trying to avoid that now. So they have to get a proxy to put in place this council, which will hold an election, which will elect somebody who is going to be a U.S. puppet. And then that person will sign the Global Fragility Act. So they want to get the optics of an election in there.
Exactly. So, these are this is where Haiti finds itself. And, maybe Kim, for kind of the last bit of our discussion here, we can bring this into I know you only have a few minutes left, and we should wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to go.
Yeah, I got to go pretty quick, but I could say a last word.
Give your last thoughts. Where are we? Where do you see things going in light of the decline of U.S. empire overall?
Yeah. Well, to me, what's happening is the Biden administration in their last lame duck 2 months are trying to ram in everything in their program that they can. We see them sending the attack missiles into Russia. We see them putting landmines in Ukraine. And now we see in Haiti, they're trying to rush this thing to get it into the UN Security Council, to have them pass it and become a UN mission. And this is because they see Trump coming and they're not sure what he's going to do. He's unpredictable. Now, it could cut both ways. Trump may say, let the Haitians figure it out. But he's got enough deep state people in there, like Marco Rubio in particular, who are going to hold to the program. And what I fear is that we could end up seeing the 82nd Airborne being sent in by Trump, because he's like, skip all this UN stuff. We're just sending our people. America first, we're going to do it. And so we'll see. But on the other hand, I'm not even saying that's going to be a cakewalk, because, the Viv Ansanm is growing in strength. And, this is where it is really intervention versus revolution. We're going to see if the empire, whether it's under Trump, is going to be able to stamp out this, what I think is Haiti's second social revolution after that of 1804.
All right, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. So thank you, Kim. If you got to run, then
Okay.
thank you for joining. And I'll just mention, Kim said that one possibility is that the U.S. sends in the 82nd Airborne. The U.S. sends in some kind of direct invasion, because all of these complicated maneuvers to send in a proxy force to get the UN to rubber stamp the occupation. So it's the UN that does it. So it has this multilateral veneer to it, when it's really just good old, Uncle Sam's imperialism. Well,
That's the globalist style. Yeah.
What the U.S. Dan Foote, who was the U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti until he resigned back in 2022, in the summer of 2022.
Dan, I'll let you close it out with all
Okay.
this explanation.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks again, Kim.
So, bye.
So what Dan Foote was the U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti, briefly appointed by the Biden administration. He resigned in the summer of 2022. And Dan Foote claimed that he was resigning because of the treatment of Haitian migrants at the border. There were those photos of Border Patrol rounding up, chasing, even whipping, though I don't know. Conservatives claim that it wasn't actually whipping. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but the pictures looked horrible. Whipping and attacking Haitian migrants who were under a bridge in, I think, Del Rio, Texas. And Dan Foote claimed to be resigning in moral outrage and disgust about that. Now, that was clearly a farce. Dan Foote has been involved in military and trainings in Iraq and Colombia, and seeing all kinds of nasty stuff, and never had any, never professed any moral qualms about that. Now, what Dan Foote actually was the reason Dan Foote actually resigned was to throw his weight behind what is called the Montana Accord, which is basically a group it's the elite opposition in Haiti, and they had grouped around this thing called the Montana Accord, which was the liberal alternative to the regime of Ariel Henry, who the U.S. had basically backed in the after the assassination of the president Jovenel Moise. And so the U.S. was grooming this Montana Accord and wanted to basically bring them in, but there was kind of a division among the government, because in the U.S. government, because Ariel Henry was so reliable. He was doing exactly what the U.S. wanted, and they said, "Why change horses? This guy's doing what we want. Who cares what anyone thinks?" And in fact, in November 2022, when the United States and International Monetary Fund imposed fuel price hikes, they removed fuel subsidies for Haiti. Brian Nichols, the Secretary of State, the Undersecretary for Latin America, he said, well, we're supporting Ariel Henry because we've wanted to remove these fuel subsidies for some time, and he's doing it. So he's being a good puppet. That's why we support him. So Dan Foote goes to a rally here in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House in solidarity with the Haitian migrants who had been rounded up and deported. And he's giving a speech, and he talks about how actually we have to have a military intervention. And the best way to do it is sort of the Obama style, have a proxy this whole way through the UN, have other countries do it. And he said, if that doesn't happen, then the U.S. is going to send 25,000 troops. So that's what he told me. Send these special forces trainers, a few dozen guys, Green Beret types, which that's what they specialize in, is training and organizing basically foreign forces. That's what they did in Afghanistan, Iraq, for example, in Colombia, and this is Dan Foote's specialty. Or we're going to have a full, complete, direct U.S. invasion into Haiti. So this, as this whole multilateral veneer falls away, this is what we're looking at into the future. So how will, we have President Trump coming in. How will he handle that? Well, we certainly saw on X all of the basically Trump, Musk influencers demonizing. Several months ago, we saw them coming up with this whole phony story about Haitian cannibals, that there's a cannibal gang in Haiti led by this cannibal barbecue, which was totally phony. And that was clearly aimed at demonizing so they could pave the way for an invasion, and also creating a hysteria about migrants rather than looking at the real root causes of the issue, which is the bipartisan constant destabilization of Haiti. And that's what none of them would discuss. So what will Trump do when it comes to it, that his, the Pentagon goes to Pete Hegseth or whoever it is, assuming he's confirmed, and says, we got to go take out this guy barbecue? Will he do it? So I think that's the moment we're in. I mean, okay. I'll answer. If anyone wants to ask questions, I have about 10 more minutes before I have to go. I'll try to take a few questions from the comments here. Okay, so one of the questions I just saw, why doesn't barbecue go after the oligarchs? Okay, barbecue is situated in Lower Delma. His allies in Viv Ansanm are also situated in neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince, which is low in the lower areas of Port-au-Prince. I mean, in terms of altitude. Okay, as you go up the hill, get higher and higher, there's more and more wealth. The oligarchs live high in the hills. So if Barbecue and his men, Viv Ansanm, decided we are going to have an armed revolution or right now against the oligarchs, they would be walking into, they would be going up the hills where they would have to clash with the Haitian National Police, and it would be a horribly bloody affair. And then they would be walking into narrow alleys. If you've ever been in the hills above Port-au-Prince, in Pétionville, and these ultra wealthy neighborhoods, even above Pétionville, then they would be walking into these narrow alleyways with 40-foot high walls that have barbed wire with armed men on top of them shooting. Like, it would just be a turkey shoot. It would just be a bloodbath. So that's not, it's not even feasible, number one, at this point. But there's a whole political process that's happening where, in a revolution, it's not that, you, me, and the next guy just decide we're going to go do it. It's you have to have the support of the people. You need to have the support of the masses. You cannot get ahead of the masses. So what Barbecue is doing is going on TikTok every day, speaking for hours at a time, and TikTok bans him, and he goes on another account and they ban him, and they're playing whack-a-mole, and he's trying to get his message across, and it's resonating more and more with people among the masses. And he, in that way, builds this movement, builds the popular support, fights back against the bourgeois propaganda that's been deployed against, not against him, but against the masses themselves, to keep them divided and fighting against each other. So this is a process, you see. And not only that, he has the elites are still paying cops in particular to attack Viv Ansanm. Every day, the police are attacking Viv Ansanm. That's what's going on. So the battle is still in these popular neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince. It's not just as simple as, well, let's just go, have a revolution. Let's just go up the hills and attack the oligarchs. That's just simply not how it works. So, and that kind of action would give the U.S. and the UN Security Council the pretext for greater intervention. So, I mean, it's just like, the same reason. Look at how Hezbollah responded on October 8th. Did they launch a full-on massive invasion force into, occupied Palestine? No, it's a process. So it's not exactly a one-to-one comparison. But I mean, when I see these comments of why doesn't barbecue go after the oligarchs, it's just this ultra-left posturing, pseudo-revolutionary posturing that doesn't have any bearing on reality, and it's from people who never have been to Haiti, who don't actually pay attention to what's going on, and are just caught up in some online imaginary struggle. So, barring any other questions, again, feel free if you want to. I got a few more minutes. If anyone else wants to throw out another question, it'll come up here, and I'll be able to answer it. But if not, then okay, we'll leave it there. So thank you all for joining. I hope this has been an enlightening stream on Uncaptured Media. And again, if you came in partway through, I'm Dan Cohen. This is Uncaptured Media, and the whole concept of Uncaptured Media is constant reevaluation and self-criticism and taking a real scientific approach to geopolitical affairs, staying uncaptured from propaganda, staying physically, mentally, spiritually, and psychologically uncaptured. And if you can help me stay economically uncaptured so I can keep doing this, because I don't have any big funders, I just rely on the public, please consider super chat, becoming a subscriber on uncaptured.media, or a one-time or recurring contribution on buymeacoffee.com/uncaptured, on patreon.com/uncaptured. There are numerous ways to contribute. So again, thank you all for joining, and have a great day.